Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Estiloz with the SPIELOn Entertainment, and I'm here with the esteemed film historian and film critic. You know him from Entertainment Tonight for many years, the amazing Mr. Leonard Maltin. It is a pleasure to chat with him about his new book entitled Starstruck, My Unlikely Road to Hollywood, coming to bookstores very soon. A pleasure to chat with you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You have written so many books over the years, most notably your TV movie guides. What prompted you at this point in time to write this type of book?
Well, I've been toying with the idea, and then along came the lockdown, the pandemic, and I said, well, now I've got the time, and so I dove in, and it was wonderful because it gave me something to get up for in the morning every day.
Mm-hmm.
I was very disciplined, and I worked on it steadily, and consulting my family along the way to prod my memory.
And you've had such an amazing career in that you've done so much in the film industry, but you had an interest in this very early on at the age of 13, coming up with your own fan magazine for movies.
Well, yeah, I mean, and everyone else thought it was unusual. Except me. It just seemed like the right thing to do. And at age 13, I read about the existence of such things as fanzines. Today it would be blogs, you know, the equivalent would be blogs or websites. And but back then it was all tangible and physical. And I used something called a mimeograph machine, which nobody in this audience of yours will ever encounter as long as they live. Mm-hmm. But it made copies before Xerox and photocopying was commonplace. And I just got into that habit of wanting to express myself whenever I got interested in something. And that's how it all began.
Well, many of us got to know you over the years, myself included, at a very young age, watching you on Entertainment Tonight. And you started on the show quite early. As my recollection goes, the first hosts were Dixie Watley and Ron Hendren, and maybe there was someone before that. Tell me what that time was like for you.
Well, it came out of the blue because I'd written a book called The Great Movie Comedians and was lucky enough to get booked as a guest on the Today Show, a plum for an author then or now. And I did the interview with Gene Shalit, their longtime film critic and entertainment reporter. And we had a very loose, lively, fun interview, good chat. Unbeknownst to me, someone at Paramount Television, this was in New York, by the way, mm-hmm. Someone at 3,000 miles away at Paramount Television here in Hollywood saw it and called the newly installed executive producer of Entertainment Tonight. And he said, "You're looking for a film critic, aren't you?" And the man said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I just saw a guy on the Today Show. I think he's worth checking out." My phone rang a few days later. To make a long story short, I got hired on the strength of my audition and was still there 30 years later.
Well, what's amazing about this show and your experience is that this was very unique at the time when you started.
It was the first of its kind. There was no E! Channel. There was no Access Hollywood. There was nothing else quite like it. In fact, people in the TV industry were very skeptical. How are you going to fill a half hour every night? And who would want to see a half hour of entertainment news? It all just unrolled and unfolded. And when it was a success, it spawned many imitators.
Well, you know, this book is fascinating in that it was a very easy but entertaining read, and you have so many anecdotes about so many screen legends as well as some of the contemporary actors that we have today. I was truly fascinated to hear your anecdote about meeting, I guess, your favorite interview of all time, Katharine Hepburn. Tell me about that experience.
Well, I hadn't been doing interviews for ET at the time. I was doing mostly new movie reviews and an occasional feature story, but they made a deal with NBC. Katharine Hepburn had just done a made-for-TV movie for NBC. She agreed to do 2 interviews to promote it, one with the Today Show and one with ET. And they sent me to New York to do it. And so I was at her brownstone apartment on East 49th Street, right next, I think, to Stephen Sondheim, in fact. And we walked in, and there she was. And I just, started chatting with her while my crew set up.
Mm-hmm.
Small talk. She offered me soup.
That's great.
Not a big soup fan, but I wasn't going to turn that down.
Mm-hmm.
And we hit it off. And the publicist from NBC had insisted that we talk mostly about this new TV movie, which they couldn't show me. They couldn't show me a frame of that movie, yet they wanted me to talk about that mostly with this legendary star.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't, because I got what few little tidbits she had to offer, and then I was off and running and talking about everything under the sun with her. She's my favorite interview because she was opinionated, colorful, and blunt.
And also, it seemed that she was so comfortable chatting with you that she even shared some thoughts about her relationship with Spencer Tracy.
She had not yet gone public talking about that long-term relationship that they had. But there was a presidential candidate named Gary Hart that year, and he had been embarrassed. In fact, it drove him out of the campaign to be photographed on a boat with some young babe. And I said something about that to Miss Hepburn, and she said, well, he was very foolish. Spencer and I never gave anybody an opportunity to take pictures of us. We never went out in public. We only ate at each other's homes or at the homes of friends.
Now, that leads me to ask, since this was one of your favorite interviews and one of your first, with all the countless interviews you've done over the years, did you ever, at least in those early stages, get nervous about somebody that you sort of, as the book says, starstruck?
All the time. Mm-hmm. I still do. I'm not blasé. I hope I never get blasé. And the trick is not to let it show. and so that's my little sleight of hand, is trying to act calm and collected and normal when I'm in the presence of somebody that I admire or even, idolize.
Now you're getting a chance to make sort of the film critic business sort of a family business. You work with your daughter with your podcast. Tell us all about that.
Well, she does not pretend to be a film critic. And she takes great objection to that, because she doesn't have any such ambitions. But what she has is she's absorbed everything that goes on in my life and my wife's life. And she still lives under the same roof as us with her husband and now with her 5-week-old child, her beautiful daughter. But she's very savvy. And so what we do mainly on our weekly podcast, Maltin on Movies, is we do interviews, and she's developed tremendous skills at that. She's a people person. She's always been highly verbal and a great people skills. And that's what people are now getting to hear.
You touch on in your book the fact that 7 years ago you were diagnosed with Parkinson's. Is that posing a great challenge for you? It seems not.
Well, if it seems not, then I'm doing my job well. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't stop me from functioning, and that's the most important part. It's challenging at times.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thank you for sharing that with us in the book. It's a whenever anybody shares something like that, and I think you touch on an anecdote in your book about how somebody else shared their struggle with you and led you to be more empowered to talk about it.
Well, I got a call from a fellow I know who was writing for the AARP website, and he called me one morning to get a reaction from me about Alan Alda going public with the fact that he had Parkinson's. And so I gave him my response, and then I looked around, and my wife and daughter happened to be in the room. And we sort of shrugged at each other, and I said, and I have it too. I hadn't planned to say that, and I'm not Alan Alda. I'm not, a star with decades of credits and wonderful resume like his. But I decided no reason to hide it.
Well, we're very grateful that you did share that, and you underestimate yourself. You've been in our living rooms for decades, my friend, and a welcome guest in there. My final question, we're heading into award season. We've got the Critics' Choice Awards coming up very soon. What's your take on some of the films as we head into the road to Oscar?
Well, I think it's not a very exciting road this year. I had a hard time making a 10 best list this year.
Oh.
And I don't remember when I've had so much difficulty coming up with films I thought were superior and worthy of awards. There are a handful, but not as many as I'd like.
What did you find lacking in terms of either the field, or are they just rehashing a lot of same ideas?
Well, I mean, Nightmare Alley is officially, it's a remake. It was made once before with Tyrone Power back in 1947, and that's a very good movie. But the new one made by Guillermo del Toro, I think, is terrific. And that is one of the leading pictures of the new year, just opened. And I think that Paul Thomas Anderson's Licorice Pizza,
yes,
is an original piece of work, which I enjoyed very much. And I happen to live in the San Fernando Valley. Didn't grow up here, but as he did, but I enjoyed all the references. And so they're really good movies. Luca this year, an animated film that really knocked me out. Dune, I think, is superior. I'm not the biggest science fiction fan, and I never read Frank Herbert's novel, but it really pulled me in to that story and kept me in its grip.
We've been chatting with Mr. Leonard Maltin of Entertainment Tonight fame and so much more. He's got a new book out called Leonard Maltin Starstruck, My Unlikely Road to Hollywood. Go to the bookstore, get it, get on Amazon, get this book out there to all your friends and for yourself. Anyway, I'm Tim Estiloz with the Spiel on Entertainment. We'll see you next time.
Thank you guys so much for checking out the show. If you guys could do us a huge favor, go like and subscribe on YouTube. Check out the other videos. They're gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It's good. It's great. It's great. What the frick are you guys still doing here? Go subscribe. Sorry, I yelled. I didn't mean it.